I had known for a long time that I didn't belong in this family. Even as a child, I realized I was like a misplaced puzzle piece among my own relatives. While my entire family praised the stable path, going to college, graduating, and landing a decent office job, I just wanted to draw. I could spend hours with colored pencils, charcoal, and later a digital tablet, creating worlds that only I understood. But to my parents, my drawings were nothing more than a waste of time. My sister Amanda was the pride of the family. She went to a prestigious university, got a degree in economics, and married Ryan, a guy working in finance, right after graduation. Every family dinner revolved around stories of her successful career, Ryan's smart investments, or their plans to buy a bigger house. I was never the center of the conversation. Unless someone used me as an example of what not to do. I still remember the day I told my parents I wasn't going to college. We were in the kitchen, and my mom was drying the last dish after dinner. I had rehearsed my words countless times in my head before saying them out loud, but nothing could have prepared me for her reaction. "What did you just say?" My mom froze, the dish towel still in her hand, looking at me like I had just uttered something horrifying. "I don't want to go to college. I enrolled in a 3D animation course." I swallowed hard, trying to stand my ground. The silence lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Then, she placed the dish in the sink, turned to me, and her voice rose sharply. "Are you out of your mind? You plan to waste your life drawing nonsense?" Before I could say anything, my dad jumped in. His voice was calmer but no less disappointed. "Look at Amanda. She has a degree, a respectable job. What are you going to do with this drawing of yours? Live off us forever?" I clenched my fists. "I can support myself. A lot of people make money from animation on YouTube now. If I work hard." Amanda laughed. "YouTube?" She raised an eyebrow mockingly. "Oh my God. This kid thinks she's going to be a millionaire drawing cartoons online." Ryan, sitting next to her, smirked. "Plenty of people try, but how many actually make it? Keep dreaming. You'll end up working a part-time job at a coffee shop sooner or later." I felt a tightness in my chest, but I didn't cry. I was used to being belittled. The days that followed were tense. My mom wouldn't even look at me, my dad just shook his head whenever I entered the room, and Amanda still visited every weekend to brag about her new job, her latest raise, and, of course, to throw in a jab about my childish hobby. I threw myself into my studies, ignoring all the ridicule. Every time I opened my computer to draw, I remembered their words. I let them fuel me. I didn't need their approval. I was going to prove them wrong. The problem was, proving it wasn't as easy as I thought. At first, I actually started to believe they were right. The early days on YouTube were a nightmare. I spent hours editing videos, drawing frame by frame, learning how to adjust audio and add effects, only to get a few dozen views. Some nights, I stayed up until dawn checking if anyone had left a comment. But the results were disappointing. My first videos were clumsy, the animation stiff, the storytelling weak. And of course, my family never missed a chance to remind me of that. Amanda especially loved to mock me. Every time she visited, she'd smirk when she saw me glued to my computer. "Still playing around with your little drawings?" She scrolled through her phone and scoffed. "I just read an article saying 90% of YouTubers don't make a dime. But hey, maybe you'll be lucky enough to be in the 10%, right?" My parents didn't even try to hide their disappointment anymore. Every dinner, my dad asked the same question. "When are you gonna get a real job?" I never answered, I just kept drawing. Even though my channel wasn't taking off, I knew I couldn't give up. I started analyzing successful animation channels, studying their techniques. I joined forums for independent animators, learned how to make movements smoother, how to create characters with more depth. I improved, little by little. Then, one day, one of my videos suddenly blew up. It wasn't the one I thought would succeed. Just a short animation, a simple story about a lost cat, but somehow it resonated with people. Overnight, it hit 500,000 views. Then, 1,000,000. Then, 1,000,000. My inbox was flooded with messages from strangers. I cried watching this. Thank you for making it. My kid has watched it 10 times. Do you sell merchandise? Can you make a part 2? I need to know what happens next. I couldn't believe it. But I didn't stop. I used this momentum to push my channel forward, constantly creating new stories and improving my animation quality. Gradually, my following grew. 1,000,000, then 1,000,000. One day I received an email from a company wanting to sponsor my video. For the first time, I made real money from my passion. But I didn't say a word to my family. I didn't want to give Amanda a chance to mock me, or see my parents look at me with skepticism. I let them believe I was still failing. They continued to talk about me as if I were living in a fantasy world, while I quietly proved them wrong. As time passed, my channel kept growing. 1,000,000 subscribers, then 2,000,000. I started getting contracts for short animated films, selling my own merchandise, and opening an online store. My bank account grew thicker each month, but I remained silent. Until one day, I decided it was time for them to know. That night was a typical weekend dinner. Amanda and Ryan were there, and my parents were busy preparing the barbecue. Once everyone was seated, I set my fork down and cleared my throat. I have an announcement. All eyes turned to me. I'm moving out. I've rented my own apartment. A heavy silence filled the room. Amanda was the first to speak, half laughing, half mocking. Oh wow, so you finally accepted that it's time to be an adult? Who's helping you pay rent? Dad narrowed his eyes, suspicion lacing his voice. Where did you get the money for rent? I met his gaze and smiled slowly. From my YouTube channel. Mom dropped her spoon onto her plate. Amanda nearly choked on her wine. Ryan's eyes widened. Go away, Amanda snapped, her tone sharp. YouTube doesn't make that kind of money. I shrugged, taking a sip of water. I could afford to rent an entire house if I wanted to. I saw the confusion in their eyes. They had never believed I would succeed, but now, the truth was right in front of them. They could accept it, or not. But for me it no longer mattered. From that day on, my family's attitude changed. But not in the way I expected. At first they said nothing about me moving out. My parents were a bit cold about it, but no one openly objected. Amanda was suspiciously quiet, only throwing me a few doubtful glances. I knew they hadn't fully processed the situation yet, but I wasn't about to waste time explaining. I had money, I had a career, I was independent. That was all they needed to know. On the day I moved into my new apartment, no one in my family helped. I hadn't expected them to. I stood alone in the empty living room, watching the afternoon sunlight stream through the windows onto the polished floor. No more disappointed sighs from my dad. No more snide remarks from Amanda at dinner. This was my life. And I naively thought that from now on, I would be free. It started with small favors. One evening my mom called, her voice hesitant. Olivia, sweetheart, our washing machine keeps breaking down. Do you know anyone who can fix it? I understood immediately. My parents never asked for help directly, they would just drop hints until I offered. I sighed, but still replied. I'll send you some money to get it repaired. Mom instantly brightened. Oh, you're such a good girl. I knew you'd help. I transferred the money right then and there, not thinking much of it. I was making more than they ever imagined, and if a small amount could make my parents happy, then it wasn't a big deal. But then, the requests started coming more frequently. Dad called me one afternoon while I was finishing an illustration for a major project. Sweetheart, our electricity bill is really high this month and we're a bit short. Can you help out a little? Amanda texted me late at night. Olivia, Joey is growing so fast I have to keep buying him new clothes. Can you help me out just this month? The next month they called again. This time it was the water bill. Then roof repairs. Then property taxes. Then groceries for the kids. I started to feel like something wasn't right. At first I convinced myself that it was fine, I was making enough money to help my family, wasn't that a good thing? But then I realized, they weren't just asking for help. They assumed it was my duty. One evening, I dropped by my parents' house for dinner as usual. The moment I sat down, Dad let out a sigh and started the all-too-familiar conversation. Property taxes went up so much this year, your mom's been worried sick. Mom set her spoon down, looking at me expectantly. Amanda, meanwhile, kept her eyes glued to her phone, as if this conversation had nothing to do with her. I stayed silent for a moment before asking, "So, what's your plan?" The room went completely still. Mom stared at me as if I had just said something absurd. Amanda finally looked up from her screen, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Mom's voice was sharper now. "I mean, have you figured out how to pay for it, or are you expecting me to help, like always?" Mom sighed, as if I had disappointed her. "You make so much money. What's a little help? We raised you for so many years." Dad nodded in agreement. "That's right, you're living a comfortable life while we're struggling. Don't you think that's unfair?" I let out a small, bitter laugh. "Unfair? What about me?" I had worked myself to exhaustion to get to where I was. When they laughed at me, I still pursued my passion, and now, they saw my success as nothing more than an open wallet for their convenience? But I didn't say anything. Instead, I pulled out my wallet, placed a check on the table. My parents smiled. Amanda gave me a quiet nod, as if I had simply fulfilled an expected obligation. That time, I gave in. And it was the biggest mistake I ever made. After that, things only got worse. Amanda and Ryan ran into financial trouble after having their second child. Ryan lost his job, and Amanda had to take time off work to care for the baby. So, naturally, they turned to me. "I know you're making good money," Amanda said over the phone. "Rent prices are crazy high. We might not be able to keep up. Can you help out a little?" I wanted to say no, but I didn't. I paid Amanda's rent. I covered the hospital bills when her kid got sick. I even paid for preschool tuition for her eldest. Meanwhile, my parents kept coming up with reasons to ask for money. Car repairs, a new stove, a broken fridge. I don't remember the last time I transferred money to them. I just knew it had become routine, an unspoken expectation. And I wondered, was I helping my family? Or was I being used? At some point, supporting my family became an obligation that no one needed to say out loud anymore. I paid my parents' bills without them asking. I sent money to Amanda every month, knowing that if I didn't, she'd call me with that tired voice, listing all the things her kids needed. Food, clothes, tuition. As time passed, the amount I spent on my family only grew. But I thought, what's the harm? I made good money. I had no one else but them. If I could ease their worries, why wouldn't I? And then, I decided to do something special. My parents' 35th wedding anniversary was coming up. I wanted to give them a gift they would never forget. I booked a luxury trip to Hawaii, covering everything. First-class flights, an oceanfront hotel, sightseeing tours, fine dining experiences. I wanted them to truly enjoy themselves for once. I even included tickets for Amanda, Ryan, and the kids. When I announced it at our usual Sunday dinner, the room went silent for a moment. "Are you serious, Olivia?" Mom asked, her eyes wide with shock. "Completely serious. Everything's booked. We leave next week." I smiled, feeling genuinely excited to see their happiness. Amanda glanced at Ryan before turning back to me, her voice tinged with jealousy but still trying to sound pleased. "Wow. You really spent that much, just to take the whole family on vacation?" "Yes," I replied. "We deserve to have a good time together." The trip was perfect. I saw my parents smile more than ever. Amanda and Ryan finally got some time to relax, and the kids ran freely along the beach. I thought that maybe, at last, I had done the right thing. Maybe this was how I could keep my family together. But I was wrong. A few weeks after returning from Hawaii, I moved on to another plan. gifting my parents a new car. Their old one was falling apart, and I knew they couldn't afford a replacement. On the night of their anniversary party, I handed them a small gift box. Mom opened it, and when she saw the car keys inside, she looked up at me, eyes wide with shock. "Go outside and see," I said. Everyone rushed to the front yard, and there, parked in the driveway, was a brand new SUV with a giant red bow on top. My mom cried, my dad stood in stunned silence. The entire evening, they kept hugging me, telling me I was a wonderful daughter, that they were so proud of me. I believed them. I believed that, after years of being overlooked, I had finally earned the recognition I had always longed for. I had no idea that right after that night, they were already planning to betray me. One Saturday morning, I stopped by my parents' house unannounced. I thought I'd help my mom clean up a bit, maybe check on the new car with my dad. While Mom was outside in the garden, I wandered into Dad's office. I had always loved this room. It was where I used to do my homework as a kid, where I once dreamed of a bigger future. I flipped through some old papers on his desk until a thick envelope, stamped by a law firm, caught my attention. I hadn't intended to read it, but then, a line on the header made me freeze. Last will and testament of... I opened the envelope. And I went numb. My parents' entire estate, the house, their savings, everything, was being left to Amanda. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere. I read it again, convinced there had to be some mistake. But no. It was all right there, in black and white. After everything I had done, after all the money I had given them, I wasn't part of their plans. The door behind me creaked open. I turned to see my parents standing there, their faces pale as they realized what I was holding. "Care to explain this?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. My mom bit her lip, stepping forward with her hand outstretched. "Olivia, you shouldn't be going through your father's paperwork." I tightened my grip on the document. "So when were you planning to tell me, before or after you signed it?" Dad cleared his throat, trying to maintain his composure. "You don't understand, Olivia. Amanda needs this house more than you do. You have a stable career, you don't need..." "Don't need?" I cut him off with a bitter laugh. "What about everything I've done for you? The money I send every month, the bills I pay, the car I bought, the Hawaii trip I covered." Mom sighed as if I were a stubborn child refusing to see reason. "You're still young, Olivia. You'll make more money. But Amanda has a family, she has kids, she needs the help more than you do." I stared at them, unable to believe what I was hearing. At that moment, I finally understood. The hugs, the gratitude, the moments they had acted proud of me, it was all a facade. They had never truly seen me as an important part of this family. I had wasted my entire life chasing the approval of people who never valued me. That day, I walked out of my parents' house with a hollow feeling in my chest. Not because of the money I had spent. Not because I wanted to fight Amanda over an inheritance. But because for the first time in my life, I realized I had never truly belonged in this family. For days I didn't reach out to anyone. I didn't want to hear their excuses or start an argument. I buried myself in work, trying to push everything out of my mind. But my mother's words haunted me. "You have a career, you don't need this. Amanda has a family, she deserves it more than you." As if I had never existed as a real member of this family. As if I were just a financial resource, an endless wallet for them to exploit. A week later, my mom called me. Her voice was softer than usual, but I knew it was nothing more than a carefully controlled calm. "Olivia, the family needs to meet with you. Come over for dinner on Saturday. We need to discuss some important matters." I almost refused immediately, but then, I decided to go. Not because I thought they would change their minds, but because I wanted to hear them say it all out loud. On Saturday night, I drove to my parents' house, parking right next to the SUV I had bought for them. Just a few weeks ago, I had thought I would always be a part of this home. Now, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to step inside anymore. As I entered, the tension in the air was so thick I could almost cut through it. My dad sat at the head of the table, my mom beside him, while Amanda and Ryan sat across from them. They were all already seated, as if this was some kind of family meeting. One where I was the only one unaware of the agenda. Mom was the first to speak. "Your father and I have thought carefully about the will," she said slowly, choosing her words with deliberate caution. "And we've decided to sign the papers transferring the house to Amanda now, to avoid any complications later." I glanced around the table. Amanda was trying to hide a smile. Ryan kept his head down, pretending to stay out of it. Dad sighed, as if he didn't love this decision but wasn't going to fight it either. I crossed my arms, nodding slowly. "So? That means nothing belongs to me?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Amanda shrugged. "Olivia, you don't need this house. I have 2 kids. I need a place to raise them. You live in your fancy apartment. So why are you making a big deal out of this?" I let out a laugh, a hollow, joyless laugh. "You have 2 kids, but who pays your rent? Who covered the hospital bills when your child was sick? Who pays for preschool? Don't act like you don't need me." Amanda opened her mouth to argue, but Mom spoke first. "Olivia, you have to understand. You're the most successful one in the family. You can always make that money back. Amanda can't." I leaned back in my chair, looking at each of them in turn. "Oh. This is what tonight is really about? Not a discussion? Just a declaration that I have no place in this family?" No one said a word. I nodded, took a deep breath, and said something I never thought I would say, out loud. "Fine. If I don't get a share in this family, then from now on, don't expect a single cent from me." The room went so silent I could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Mom's eyes widened as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, standing up and planting both hands on the table, "starting today, I won't be paying another bill. No more rent for Amanda, no more medical expenses, no more tuition, no more covering anything. If this family sees me as an outsider, then treat me like one." Mom's face paled. "Olivia, you can't do that. We're your family." I looked at her, feeling an odd sense of calm. "Though, family doesn't treat each other like this." I turned and walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard Mom start crying, Dad calling my name, Amanda muttering angrily under her breath. But I didn't stop. I stepped outside, and just before getting into my car, I glanced at the SUV I had bought for them. It was still registered in my name. That night, I called the insurance company. "Hello, I need to report an asset repossession. The car is still registered under my name, and I want it retrieved immediately." 3 days later, a tow truck pulled up in front of my parents' house. Amanda called me in a fury. "You're a cruel, heartless bitch. How could you take Mom and Dad's car? We're family." I simply chuckled, my voice calm. "Family? Family took my name out of the will. I'm just following the example they set." I hung up. 3 months later, I blocked all their numbers. I left the family group chat. I unfollowed my mom on Facebook, where she was complaining about her ungrateful, traitorous daughter. But I didn't care anymore. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about them, and I had never felt freer. 3 months had passed since I cut ties with my family. At first, the silence felt strange. No more texts from my mom reminding me to cover the utility bills. No more calls from Amanda complaining about rent increases or sick kids. No more snide comments about my job. While quietly accepting my money every month. My apartment felt eerily quiet, but instead of loneliness, I realized it was peace. Without the financial burden of supporting my family, I was able to focus entirely on my career. I invested in a professional studio, hired staff to scale my work. No longer overwhelmed with doing everything alone, I could pour my energy into creativity, instead of drowning in hundreds of small tasks. And then, the magic happened. My YouTube channel grew faster than ever. New projects racked up millions of views, big brands reached out, and sponsorship deals became more frequent. I had once dreamed of reaching 1 million subscribers. Now, that number had surpassed 10 million. I started doing things I had never even considered before. I bought a bigger apartment, one with a spacious office dedicated to my animation studio. I allowed myself to buy things I wanted without guilt, without thinking that money could have helped my family instead. I began traveling, not to fund vacations for others, but simply to enjoy life on my own terms. And then, one day, while strolling down a quiet suburban street, I saw it. A small but breathtaking house. A charming wooden home with a spacious garden, where sunlight streamed through large windows every morning. I had always thought that one day, when I became successful enough, I would buy a house for my family. But now, I realized, I was my own family. I bought it. Not to prove anything. Not to earn anyone's approval. I bought it for me. Occasionally, I still heard news about my parents and Amanda through distant relatives. My parents had to sell off some of their assets to cover their debts. Amanda and Ryan were forced to move into a smaller apartment, since no one was helping with rent anymore. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel regret. It was their choice. My mother still tried to reach me the only way she knew how, through Facebook. I didn't block her, but I never responded. I read her posts, filled with sorrow and blame. Some children, once they get rich, forget who raised them. It's heartbreaking when family is betrayed by their own blood. She expected sympathy. But instead, the relatives who knew the full story spoke up. "Didn't Olivia pay all the bills for years?" one aunt commented. "She bought a car, covered Amanda's rent, and now you're blaming her?" another relative wrote. I didn't have to say a word, the truth spoke for itself. Some nights, I sat in my new home, gazing out at the garden under the moonlight. I thought about all the years I had spent chasing their approval, striving to make them proud, sacrificing to earn their love. But I understood now. They had never truly loved me the way a family should. They only loved me when I had something to give. And the moment I stopped giving, their love disappeared. I have no regrets about walking away from them. I don't need their approval to know that I deserve happiness. I built my life on my own, and I have never felt freer. Olivia's story is not just a personal journey. It's a lesson in self-worth and setting boundaries within a family. Not everyone is loved unconditionally just because they share the same blood. Sometimes, family ties only exist as long as there's something to take advantage of. It took Olivia years to realize that true familial love should never come with financial obligations. Sometimes the best choice isn't to keep sacrificing. It's to let go of toxic relationships in order to protect yourself. Blood doesn't define family. Love and respect do. What do you think about Olivia's story? Have you ever been in a situation where your family took advantage of you like she was? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more eye-opening stories about life, family, and valuable life lessons.